Hi everyone, and welcome to today's online class that is going to bring you through a relatively quick PowerPoint presentation that focuses on the argument and evidence and then gets you to participate in an activity that will get you thinking about possible research topics for yourself. So let's start with today's objectives, which are to review the TSEM course goals. In these course goals, you will see that there are elements of critical thinking and argumentative writing, and that is why we do what we do. We will consider the differences between argumentative writing and persuasive writing. And then I have two websites that I'm going to have you use. One, thedebate.org, will be used to help you identify some potential topics that you might want to start exploring on Wednesday when we go to the library. And then also poplet.com is a brainstorming tool that allows you to keep track of some of your ideas and the relationship between those. And I will show you how to use that today. So really quickly, the course goals, the four that I want to focus on today, start here. Prepare and present a compelling, substantive interpretation, argument, and/or analysis of a problem or issue in a research paper. Needless to say, we are focusing on the argument, and so we will do that by, number two, gather and use academic resources effectively and according to the standards and rules of academic integrity in formulating and presenting a substantive, interpretation, argument, and/or analysis of a problem. Again, that word argument comes up again. Third, understand and evaluate the nature and possible causes and implications of events, behaviors, problems, and issues from an informed and intellectually balanced perspective. And lastly, connect concepts and empirical evidence in logically coherent, valid, and compelling ways. So you can see through these course goals that the work that we will be doing really helps to showcase these goals and your master of them. Um, just to focus a little bit on the argument, Hillox, from one of his works in 2010, contends that argument is at the heart of critical thinking and academic discourse, the kind of writing students need to know for success in college. He points out that many teachers begin to teach some version of argument with the writing of a thesis statement. But in reality, good argument begins with looking at the data that are likely to become the evidence in an argument, and that gives rise to a thesis statement or major claim. So in this course, we are really going to focus on you learning more about your topic first, and then moving to a thesis statement once you have collected the proper data and evidence that you need. So students need an understanding of the components of argument and the process through which careful examination of textual evidence becomes the beginnings of a claim about text. And again, this comes from the piece Teaching Argument for Critical Thinking and Writing. And really, this is what we're going to be focusing on for a good portion of this course. The idea that you will need to find meaningful texts, read them, examine them, and eventually put them in the right place so that they form and support your argument. We talked a little bit about this on Friday after our Bubba activity, the idea that many of you have written a persuasive essay before. So you can take a quick moment and think about some of the topics that you wrote about, what was some of the information you included in these persuasive essays or papers, and how were they structured. Again, I think I mentioned that I'm sure some of you wrote papers about the legalization of marijuana, or maybe that high school times should be later, or the reasons that you should be able to have a cell phone in class. And while those topics certainly could have been written in an argumentative way, my guess is that most of you wrote persuasive essays that relied heavily on your own opinion and points that you might have been able to make up based on perhaps more anecdotal kinds of evidence or your own opinions. This paper is not the same. When we talk about the TSEM argumentative research paper, it is quite different. Over here, you will see that this is just about persuasion, which aggressively seeks to change the reader's opinion and stimulate action based on the author's truth, right? So what is it that you believe should be done about cell phone use in the classroom? Rather than this, we are going to be focusing on the argument, which influences the reader by using evidence and reasoning to express a point of view and uncover a truth for the reader. So what is an argument and what do you need to win an argument? I'm sure many of you can think about some examples of arguments that you've had in the past. And can you think about how you won those? What did you have to do or say in order to convince somebody of your particular argument? And the question then becomes how many of you have gotten to a point where you are relying on others to support you. So are you listening to National Public Radio? Are you referencing newspaper articles? Are you referring to different studies that are being published? Or are you really just kind of coming up with your own opinions because of what friends and family members have posted on Facebook? If you are truly developing an argument, these are the components that would be included. There's first a claim. So what is your point, right? What is the thing that you are arguing? Next are the grounds. So what do you have to go on? Do you think that schools should be canceled more often because when it's cold outside because you've seen kids freezing at the bus stop? And so you think that this is that this is important that we cancel school when it snows. Well, how sure are you, right? This is the qualifier, and this is really where we will focus a lot. How sure are you is based on where you're getting your evidence. Then we'll talk a little bit as we move how you get from the evidence to your claim. Then what supports your evidence, really. This is a little confusing, so we'll talk about this more in class. And then finally, the rebuttal, or sometimes what's considered the counterclaim. And the idea that you'll need to acknowledge the other side so that people who are going to argue against you know that you know what they might already say. Again, when you think about evidence, hopefully these are some terms that will become quite common and quite easy to retrieve in your memory. These are some of the types of evidence that you used in your blogs about charter schools last week, and the types of evidence that we talked about in regards to Bubba's investigation. Those of you who found the Animal Welfare Act would know that that was a piece of legal evidence that's also sometimes considered documentary evidence. You know that Jane Goodall was our expert opinion who also used her qualitative research to help. We know that there were some stories from the zookeeper, which was the anecdotal evidence, and we know that there were statistics that came out in regards to studies done comparing the chimp's DNA to our DNA, which would be part of the quantitative evidence. In this course, your job, of course, is going to be to find, analyze, and apply particular evidence that supports your argument. And this is where we get to where we need to decide what argument you're going to have. Some of you may already have some ideas, and I know many of you have approached me already, and I'm excited that you are already excited about topics. But for some of you, you have no idea what it is that you actually want to study. So let's just consider for a moment the various topics that came out of the charter school debate. This might help you just start thinking about some issues that you could research and for which you could argue a point, and I've provided some samples here. To start, we know that some students with special needs were not supposedly allowed in the charter schools. So the argument here could be speaking to K through 12 schools in general to say that students with special needs should be given more support. Needless to say, your argumentative paper will be a little bit more specific, but just to give you an idea that there are arguments that could be made within each of these areas. The next area is standardized testing, and the argument could be made that other measures of academic achievement should be used for high school students. Teacher unions. This was talked about a lot in both movies, and the argument could be made that school systems should eliminate teacher unions, or maybe that the nation as a whole needs to eliminate the power of teacher unions. Tenure. Perhaps the argument could be that school systems should keep it because eventually you'll figure out that the evidence shows that teachers who have tenure actually, create stronger and more prepared students. And lastly, dropout factories, these schools that consistently fail their students. Perhaps your argument is going to be that something specific needs to be done to reform these schools so that thousands more students don't fail. So these are just some ideas of the hundreds that you are going to find out about through this activity that you're going to do now. So in a couple minutes, once this video is over, there are two websites that you are going to go to. And both of these websites will be available in our current weeks folder. The first is poplet.com. Here you're going to set up an account. I can show you quickly that poplet.com is a tool that is meant for brainstorming. It is going to look like this. You can put in different topics, images, videos, and it turns into a mind map that allows you to keep track of the different ideas and different research topics and related topics that you might find. Where you're going to get these topics to start is a place called debate.org. And actually, I'll have this link in our site as well. But it is a debate.org site, but specifically designed for education issues. I'll tell you now, some of these issues are really stupid, but there are hundreds of them. And so my hope is that through somewhere in here, you'll find something that might interest you. Perhaps again, you already have a topic in mind, but if you don't, here are some at least starters, seeds, if you will, that might help you start thinking about some research topics based in an argument. In fact, these are actually based in certain questions, and that's how we can get started. Should our education system be completely reformed? Has education resulted in greater inequality? Another question could be, should schools be single-sex schools? So again, these are topics, questions that have been asked, but through these questions really is when we try to find answers, and we will find answers through our research. So you're going to open a Poplet to get you started, create an account. Then you're going to go to the website for the debate.org. And as you go through and you find some ideas, the hope is that you will then start writing them down. This is a sample that I created. And let's just say that I was interested in students' health. Maybe I would put students' health here, and then I start adding in some different topics. And then I've just kind of started building things. The way that it works is you can double click anywhere. So let's just say, I'm just going to X out of this one right now so you can see. So you double click anywhere on your blank screen. This is my idea for research. And from here, you'll see that there are these circles on the sides. You can just pull them out and you can add a new one. Add a new one here. You pull this out, you can add a new one here. And the idea is that I want you to continue to build some different ideas. As you go through, you might have a new idea about school lunch, or maybe you have a new idea about athletic teams. Once you have completed this, I'm going to ask you to essentially copy and paste the URL, go to our discussion board site. You'll see that there is a Poplet, a forum here for those in the 10 o'clock class, and a forum here for the 11 o'clock class. And you will click here. You can put your name in the subject line, and then you can go create thread, put your name in the subject line, and then provide the link to your Poplet so that when we get together on Wednesday, we can take a look at what some other people are thinking and share our ideas. All right, I think that is it for now. I do need to stop talking because this can't be more than 15 minutes. I wish you the best of luck. contact me if you have any questions, and I will see you all on Wednesday at the library.